Hello to whoever is watching me read this. My name is Malogi, and today I'll be reading Stacey Abrams' Lift Every Voice, written by Seren Rorin, illustrated by Monica Mackay. The United States promises that the people can have a voice in deciding who is in charge. Stacey Abrams makes sure leaders keep that promise. She helps people understand their power and use it. This work started a long time ago before Stacey was born. Her parents were part of the civil rights movement, fighting to make sure Black people everywhere could vote. Growing up, Stacey listened to their stories. Her parents had 3 central rules: go to church, go to school, take care of each other. They believed all things were possible as long as people looked out for one another. Stacey and her 5 brothers and sisters were taught to believe that too. Stacey's dad worked overtime in the shipyard still. Still, their family didn't have much. Having nothing is not an excuse for doing nothing. He told them, so Stacey served soup from a huge pot to hungry neighbors. She learned to ask, "How can I help?" And Stacey had one treasure nobody could steal: her mind. Stacey loved books. She read her way through an encyclopedia, the dictionary, and all kinds of stories. The law said Stacey had the right to an equal education, but some schools got more support than others. Her parents rented a house as close as they could to get a decent school. Stacey did so well that sometimes a special bus took her to school with all the books and equipment she would ever need to get ahead. None of the other kids looked like Stacey. On election day, Stacey's mom picked the kids up from school. They followed her into a gym graced with voting booths. Stacey loved elections. Voters had power. Her parents chose leaders who would improve life in their city and across the country. Someday, Stacey would have the chance to select her leaders too. Stacey graduated at top of her class. She and other Georgia valedictorians were invited to meet the governor. Stacey and her parents took the long bus ride to his mansion, a mansion just like the ones on television. They walked up the driveway, they stretched to his gate, but the guard wouldn't let her family in. Stacey deserved a spot in the mansion, but her parents had to fight for it. Stacey chose to attend Spelman College in Atlanta, a historically Black institution. Stacey had almost never seen other Black people in charge, but at Spelman, she met Black business people, artists, scientists, and scholars. Outside the class, Stacey attended city meetings where she saw the mayor, the first Black man to lead Atlanta, looked out for hundreds of thousands of people. If he could do it, maybe she could too. Then the world was reminded that Black lives still did not count like they should. On the other side of the country in Los Angeles, California, police officers were caught on camera beating a Black man named Rodney King. A year later, in 1992, a jury decided that the officers didn't do anything wrong. The whole nation witnessed how unfairly Black people were often treated. Some people were surprised, some were not. Many were angry. Many were angry. Rage burned through Atlanta. Many students marched in protest but stayed out the violence. The police came anyway. Newscasters described the destruction but ignored the stories of the young people in the streets. Stacey knew black youth deserved better schools, more opportunity, equal treatment under the law. If the system were fair, people wouldn't feel the need to rise up. How could Stacey help? She called the reporters and asked them to tell the whole truth. No, she called again. Click, she called again. Nobody would listen. And how would she get them to pay attention? Stacey handed out phone numbers. Classmates and called and called and called. News stations demanded to know who was blocking their lines. The students offered one name, Stacey Abrams. Stacey couldn't change what the media reported, but they asked her to join the conversation. She appeared on television with the mayor. Young black people were under attack. He should have understood their fury. He didn't. Stacey knew the mayor had the power to do more. She told him so. Young people need new leaders who called about their lives. And how could Stacey help? She registered other students to vote. Speaking up was scary, but people were listening from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Stacey told the biggest crowd she had ever seen to give young people the chance to succeed. The mayor had listened to. He asked Stacey to come work in his office. She had wanted him to look out for the young people of Atlanta. Now she helped him do it. Stacey graduated from Spelman, top honors, but she went back to school to study governance and the law. When she needed a break, she turned to books. This time, she wrote her own. As a lawyer, Atlanta, Stacey helped businesses and the city government follow the rules, especially around money. Stacey knew how important money was when she was growing up. There were times where her family had to go without electricity or running water. Even as an adult, she didn't always have enough money to cover her bills and take care of the people she loved. Like her many Georgians were not able to buy what they needed to feel healthy and safe. Better laws could change that. How could we help? How could she help? Stacey ran for office and won a seat in the Georgia House, representing she was good at making laws that she became the leader of the party in the House. Stacey was the first black woman to hold the job. She had her own way of doing things. She listened, she learned, she agitated and collaborated. She encouraged other new leaders to run for office too. Stacey could suggest a vote on laws, but she didn't have the power to decide how those laws worked in people's lives. If she was a governor, she'd be able to do more. Would that be asking too much? No black woman had ever won a governor race in America. If Stacey made people hope that change was possible, how would they feel if she lost? Her fear was big and real. Her need to try was bigger. Lost. Her fear was big and real. Her need to try was bigger. She decided to run for governor. In rib shacks at terrorists, and in packed auditoriums through videos and postcards, and text over the phone, in multiple languages, knocking on doors after door. Stacey and her team spreaded the message. We are trying to create a state of excellence, schools with jobs, and create wealth and opportunity with good leaders who stand up for all of us. We are here to ensure that everyone who calls Georgia home has the freedom and opportunity to thrive, to live their very best lives. Vote for yourself. Vote for the people. Know and love for the ones who you work beside and worship with. For the Georgians, you may never know but whose fate it is undeniably tied to our own, our chance, our choice, Georgia. The fight wouldn't be fair. Stacey's opponent in the governor race was also running the election. He had the power to make voting confusing and difficult. He had the power to decide who belonged in a voting booth and who didn't. Some Georgians had been treated as if they didn't matter, but they mattered to Stacey, and she asked them to believe their vote mattered too. Election Day 2018. Broke voting machines, too few polling places meant black voters had to stand in line for hours. Names were missing from the list of registered voters. Some Jordanians didn't get a real ballot at all. Still more voters than expected came out for the Georgia governor's election. More black voters, more white voters, more Asian voters, more Latinx voters, more younger voters. It wasn't enough. Stacey wouldn't be in the governor mansion. She let the fight go. She would lead from outside the gates. The title of governor isn't nearly as important as our schools. I want to say thank you. Thank you to those who organized your community and shattered records. Change is not coming to Georgia. It has arrived. And you made it so. Her parents had fought to make sure everyone was able to register to vote and have their ballot count. Stacey would too. She teamed up with other leaders to bring democracy to all the people. Workers across Georgia knocked on doors. They registered voters. They challenged unfair elections across the country. People joined the fight. In 2020, a pandemic closed, wiped out jobs, homes, took loved ones now more than ever. Stacey believed good leadership mattered. Another election was coming up. People deserved to have their voices heard and their voted counted. Door to door and phone call after phone call. Volunteers ask, "Are you registered to vote? Do you know where to go? Are you sure? How can I help?" Hundreds of thousands of first-time Georgia voters helped pick the people who would lead everyone into the future. Each new voice joined the others until a message rung out too loud to ignore our chances. Our choice, our country, the people had power. Stacey believed all things were possible as long as America looked out for one another. This was just the beginning. How could she help? And that is Stacey Abrams, Lift Every Voice. My question for you today is, if you were Stacey, what would you do in her position?